We are. We alive.
Oh well, no, I mean on Facebook.
Oh,
Where are we at on Facebook?
I'm doing it to Urban Literary Review page. So
Okay,
Urban Literary Review has 7,000 folks over there.
Urban
Literary Review.
Review. Okay, groups, pages, or groups or pages.
Hey y'all, we are live. I know that it says we have zero viewers, but there we go. I just got the information. I'm live on LinkedIn. All right, what's up, LinkedIn family? Definitely leave a comment. You know how
I
this
see
goes.
that.
You can
Yep.
broadcast right across the bottom.
Copy
This is the
link,
first
awesome.
interview we're doing as part of the Black Book Fair, and I'm excited to be able to talk to my boy, my brother, the one and only Relentless Aaron, coming to the stage.
With
And
Carl and all his sound effect. No, I'm kidding.
oh, I got sound effects for you, Relentless. I got
No,
sound effects. But that's the whole thing, right? We're not on Clubhouse. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn, and then we'll be on the recorded. Will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So,
I'm
so
actually,
Relentless.
Sharing the link on as we're speaking. I'm sharing the link on 10 other Facebook pages. Okay.
Appreciate that. I know you got that hustle. I know you out there in these internet streets. So
yes,
for anybody that doesn't know who Relentless Aaron is, right now I just say Google him. That is the number one way and Google ABC News.
I don't know if anybody else is on. I don't know if people are Googling these days. I promise you.
They are Relentless. Absolutely.
I don't know. I think the smarty pants are right, but something. My sister, I love her to death, but she was asking me about, or no, not my sister. Let's say somebody else. One of her clients was asking me, "Hey, what is the PPP and the EIDL?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God." I
get a lot of that too.
So easy to Google that stuff. So.
Right. So for those of you just tuned in, Relentless Aaron is an excellent author. He's not just an author. He's a consummate marketer. He's a consummate strategist. He's a serial entrepreneur. And that's why we're here on LinkedIn. We're also here live on Facebook because we're covering two audiences. We're covering business, entrepreneurship, and we're covering authors. And as a part of the Black Book Fair this week, we'll be talking to all kind of industry giants, people that have done phenomenal, unheard of before they did it things. So definitely send us a question via our chat or any way you want to talk to us. We're both available on Instagram. Relentless. What's your Instagram?
It's Relentless Aaron.
Exactly. And my Instagram is LM. I'll put it I'll change my name so you guys can see it. But basically, Relentless, can you tell us how you got started writing?
Sure. So, okay, great. So we're live on my LinkedIn now and about three or four other Facebook pages. Okay, cool. So, turn on. So I started writing out of a want for sanity and also to really save my life, to be honest with you. I was in Union County Jail. A very
Union
dangerous.
County's in Jersey, right?
Yeah. Okay. I had gotten arrested in New Rochelle, and they brought me to Jersey because the crime that I had committed was over in Jersey, and so I think it was it FBI or I think it was FBI. I'm not remembering, but they basically came over and did a whole like little sting at my office in New Rochelle. Somebody wore a wire. They came up into the office and That's basically what happened. So before you know it, I found myself in Jersey, um, facing charges for credit fraud. I was bank fraud, as a matter of fact. I was involved with, like, I was running a whole ring of characters, and we were I was just addicted to this whole check game. We were creating driver's licenses and duplicate checks with each license. People were going into check cashing places around the country and cashing these checks, and they were going into banks and depositing these checks, and it was just it was a wild 6 months, man. It was a wild 6 months, and I got addicted. No excuse for my behavior, except I'm just basically kind of detailing, what happened. And so I found myself locked up at in Union County Jail after a year of court and going back and forth to court, and inevitably there was a point when the judge said lock him up. And so I think I was really cavalier in court. I had no idea really that I was facing such serious conclusions,
Right.
being 7 years prison sentence. So I'm in Union County Jail, and I'm seeing gang members, basically, and from the area, not from New York. Nobody that might have known me personally, or might have known, where I come from, my history. We all have histories, Um, so, so I was sort of isolated in this on this block, on this jail block, and there's different blocks in Union County Jail, but I was on this block, and it was reckless, man. It was reckless. So I basically, if you can imagine a tier of guys, just not a tier that with a wide open floor, just like if you could link two buses together. This was the tier, and there were barred jail cells along that tier. You've seen them in movies. It's the same old row of jail cells anyway, but they let us out, I guess, 8-9 a.m., and now you're in this day room, so to speak, with one TV, a pull-up bar, and some card tables, and the men that people this experience. And so I I was in a cell with some dude, and I remember writing. I just remember that was my biggest resource in there, was pencil and paper. And I just remember like the first thought that came to my mind was like, this is not going to be my life. I had really fucked up now, like those videos that you say, you done fucked up now, So anyway, long story short, there was I was writing 3 and 4 poems or songs a day, which wasn't a lot, but it was something that engaged me, kept me busy, kept my mind busy. I wasn't in front of the television. I was just like really writing for my life, So you're either in there, you're either communicating with other guys, you're trying to get on some phone, or you're watching TV, etc. And so for me, it was writing. And so that's how I started writing. The long and short of it, let me tell you, I ended up writing 300 songs, Martin, and I sent them to what I thought was a very good friend, who was very accomplished in music. When I say very accomplished, this guy had loads of Grammys for other artists that he was producing, people like Phyllis Hyman and Anita Baker, and just like a major artist, and had a lot of gold and platinum albums on his walls in his house. So this cat connected with me. We connected because we're from Westchester, and he invited me up to his house. And one day he threw $2,000 in my hand. He's like, I love what you're doing with your TV show. I had a TV show called Superstar USA. We would bring on amateur talent, and then inevitably I evolved that so to the point that we were actually we were interviewing major talent, you know, Phyllis Hyman, Nancy Wilson, Shaka Khan, Brandy, Brian McKnight, and the list goes on. And so he said, I'm very proud of you. He gave me $2,000. I donated. But to fast forward to when I'm in prison, I sent him like 300 songs in a manila envelope. I mailed them to him, and he sent them back to me saying with a little note, please don't send me any more songs. And yo, bro, if I could tell you, the air came out of my balloon at that moment. And I thought I had an advocate. You know, I mean, I didn't get a little note to say, hey, how you doing? You know, I heard about you, or, you know, is there some other way I could help? Now I'm thinking back, I'm saying, you know, because he's such a well-known person, he could have think that there's a conflict of interest. Like people, you know, how people send unrequested music or songs or ideas, you know, later they could always claim, oh, I get that. But still, the way that he gave that back to me, it was so cold. But let me tell you something, that inspired something else in me, because I was sort of angry, but out of that anger came jewels, because I decided at that moment that I was going to write novels, that I was going to undermine the music industry. In my mind, I was going to undermine the music industry by writing these books, because from what I understood, books could last more than a lifetime. And also soundtracks, or books become movies, and movies have soundtracks. So inevitably he would either run into me again, or work with me, or hear about me. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of
Absolutely. It's going to come with those that you meet going
but
up.
A redemption.
You also meet coming down.
Right. Not a revenge, but a redemption, you know?
Right.
And so yeah, that happened. So that's when I started writing books. But at that point, you know, that to answer your question.
So we got some comments on the chat from Facebook and also LinkedIn. Good morning to Nakia. Good morning, Heidi. Good morning, Whitley. Thank you, Star. And also Cheryl. Thanks for finding our Urban Literary Review. LinkedIn. Yes, this is a story of when Relentless was in jail, and Relentless gets out of jail. Now, Relentless let me frame this for y'all, because Relentless came into my family's bookstore, and Relentless left with a passion for writing, and he left with stories inside of him and stories that were also physically in books. So, Relentless, when you get out, what do you do first as far as the writing? Do you go find a printer? Did you go get an editor? Did you format the books? What was that like? Because when you showed up at our store, you had a book cover, a book formatted, and a price and a barcode on it.
So, you shouldn't.
And this is 2000 and this framing also 2004, 2005.
So I left prison in 2003. I think it was May of 2003. Yeah. I left prison with 30 manuscripts. And the reason I was able to even get to 30, Martin, is because from that moment being at Union County Jail, I was transferred into the federal system, right? And in the federal system, it became just as dangerous, especially when I first landed in there. So just picture riots and lockdown, 24-hour lockdown, and people from all over the world sort of clustered in a prison where I was miscategorized pretty much. And so I decided to, I tried to get a job in the prison, in the dorm, which was cleaning showers. And cleaning showers enabled me most of my day free. So I could hit the showers early in the morning or late in the evening or late in the afternoon, get it done, and I can go on with my day. You understand? So my agenda was to write these books. And so that whole first year was tumultuous because not only did they they miscategorize me and put me where I, the numbers didn't make sense. The crime that I had committed, I was around gun runners and people that came out of death squads and drug barons, really. And so anyway, long story short, they after 6 months, they put me at Fort Dix, New Jersey, which was at the time one of the biggest prisons in the world, or in the country. Federal prison, right? And so so in Fort Dix, I got my skills of writing from my first book. I finished my first book, number one. It took a year, and I was so elated. I remember that day. I was so elated. I just didn't know what to do with myself. And I was like a dog running around in a cage. But I had access to the compound. I was meeting other people, etc. Buddying, becoming buddies with people. And so long story short, I went right back to writing. I just went right back into my writing, right back into my pocket. And the next book took me 3 months, and then I got it down to 2 weeks. So that's how I ended up with 30 manuscripts. Also, while I was in there was another guy, very popular now, but he was connected to one of the, arguably one of the wealthiest rappers on the planet. And he basically found me. He walked up to me, said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I thought this was an important part of the story. But he says, "Hey, what are you doing? People are seeing you writing every day. They think you're reporting, so I says, I'm writing novels. I'm going to be a best-selling author. And so he says, do you mind if I read something? So I was writing on line paper, Martin, and basically gave him Push, which was my 20th book in. And he took the book and he came back and he said, bro, I don't even read books. He came back in a couple of days. He said, bro, you are the Michael Jordan of this game. And he says, let me show you something. So he brought me to his locker. At that moment, I got to really know that this dude was connected to this rapper and this big clothing company, et cetera, et cetera. And he told me, he says, man, anything you need, I got you. And so he would put money in my account, and he would buy commissary for me. And the significance of that is it enabled me the free time. I didn't have to go working at all because I had all of the resources I needed to eat and to dream and to write. So in my mind, in my bed while I'm sleeping, I'm thinking up and conjuring up my stories and my characters. But in the day, I'm at a desk writing these books. And so left there with he walked me to the gate and he said, bro, you don't owe me nothing. I just want to see you fly. And so that's what I did. And so I left prison and I manufactured my first book through Offset Press in Jersey, as a matter of fact. And so I found that they would do my books on consignment. Maybe they heard the passion in my voice or whatever, but I got hold of my wife at the time got me a laptop, and I actually formatted the book myself. And to your point, because by the time I got to your store, you saw a book with the print that was condensed. It was the lines were like one. The line distance is a 2.0, there's a 1.5, and then there's a 1. And so I was at 1. So in other words, that enabled me to get more words on each page, but that's not how you do it. You have to appeal to the reader's eyes. And so I didn't know that. And so I'm trying to think about pages and how many pages and the cost of the book and the cost of printing. And so this is what I was able to put into this book. Now, I'm not the first one to squeeze words into a book. The Bible has it way worse. So I basically was doing what I knew, and I didn't know. Again, I was learning as I was going along. But I will say that, I went and printed 20,000 of these books at some point. I went and printed 50 at first, and then I printed 300, and then I got an investor a few investors, but I got one investor in particular to invest 20 grand in me. I printed 20,000 books, and I got the cost down to $1. And if I had my druthers, I would have reformatted the book and, it would have been a lot thicker. And that became Push. And Push, wow, Push, people were feeling that book, man. That book, this book here, Push, Push is, it's an anthem. This is,
well, like rap was doing. Let's talk about that for a minute. And not so much, maybe I don't want you to give away your secrets, but because
okay.
I think that everybody should pay you. So pay you by buying the book, one, and then pay you by hiring you as a consultant. But I do want to talk about not your secrets, but what was happening at that time. And so let's set the frame. You have hip hop that is talking about what's happening on the streets. We now know that the U.S. government was involved in the drug trade. We now know that, our communities were targeted, right? And then you had hip hop, who was, for the most part, a lot of hip hop songs were telling street stories. But when it came to writing, at least what I remember, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at that point in 2003, Omar Tyree or Eric Jerome Dickey or Elon Harris or Terry McMillan
Brown.
Right. None of them were writing street talks. Nobody was telling what was happening in Baltimore, what was happening in Jersey, what was happening even in LA, what was happening in Oakland. And then I say street talks, I feel like up until 2003, Donald Goins was the only one telling the street tales. There wasn't anybody of that caliber. And when I say telling, I mean like with strong character development, with strong storylines and arcs in those stories. Not just that, I'm on the corner, I'm selling drugs. You learned about the backstory, you learned about the mother, you learned about the cousin, you learned about the girlfriend. There was an art.
That's deep. Yeah, that's deep. So and some of the works you're talking about were sort of isolated. Like people could write about their hood. I got a lot of inspiration out of Fly Girl, Omar's book. It was Philly centric, Philly based, but it was definitely not, global, or, it didn't speak to all of the hoods, but it would, the story was powerful.
That's a good point. I forgot about Fly Girl. Yeah. Yeah.
Fly Girl was big. And then also The Coldest Winter was cool. It was a good book.
Yes.
It was
that's classic.
And so these books, and also there was Parry Satin Brown. Keep in mind, in prison, I had access to books. I had access to outer libraries that you can order books. So I used to get stacks of books. I used to read a book a day.
That's when they cared that people read. They wanted to make sure that anybody who was in prison could read and write. That's back then.
Yeah. Well, it was big because reading enabled me. It enabled me because I really got to dig in deep to how these books were written. I dissected, first of all, John Grisham. I dissected Sidney Sheldon, Harold Robbins, Elmore Leonard, and Donald Westlake. People don't know Elmore Leonard and Donald Westlake are the same person. So I got to learn that you could write as another name, which was crazy to me, that you could be a novelist and then write as another name. Also, Stephen King did that. He did the Bachman books, which were a powerful set of books. And so one of the other writers that had huge influence on me was Guy Johnson. Guy Johnson has arguably one of the most important novels written in our times. I mean, let me tell you, a lot of these books, marketing is very, very important, because you either get the shine or you don't get the shine, right? But the Da Vinci Code was not popular until the film came out. When Standing at the Scratch Line hits this planet, trust me when I tell you, if especially if the film is done right, you will be just as moved as you were when you saw Boys in the Hood,
Right.
or as moved as when you saw a Rosewood, or as moved as when you saw any of like Malcolm X. Like this Guy Johnson, Maya Angelou's son, by the way, is an
Right.
amazing storyteller. He not only did he tell the story and captivate me, but he spoke to, I'm not of, I don't know that I'm of his generation. He spoke to he spoke courage into me. He spoke mastery into me. And so I basically had to step my game up when it came to, you know, seeing another author that could really put it down. I thought I was doing something when I dissected these masterful authors. Now, James Patterson and Grisham and all those cats, they're cool. They had strong, they know how to captivate and titillate and keep and keep you engaged. But for me, they didn't know how to do diversity like I did. They didn't know my culture. They didn't know the walks that I've walked, the places that I've been. I'm not talking about the little crime spree I had. I'm talking about, you know, the years of entrepreneurship. My dad owned a strip club in the Bronx, in Mount Vernon, and then the Bronx. And I've already been involved with celebrities, and I had met celebrities and been around them. I had a TV show, a cable TV show back in the day called the Westchester Talent Competition, and then we evolved that to Superstar USA. So I've been there, done that in terms of meeting people. I've been in presence of Michael Jackson. I've been in hotel rooms with Prince and family. So I mean, I've just been all over the place, and so that helped me people my content, my books with rich and engaging storylines and plots, and the skills came from these other authors. They obviously went to school to write, or obviously studied the craft of writing. I studied them. And so studying, how could you go wrong by studying Grisham? I mean, like, most of his books are movies. How could you
Right.
go wrong with studying?
Let me jump in there real quick
Go ahead.
to let you know we got some comments. No, you're good. You're doing great. From Gary Ronaldo. I think it's Ronaldo. Reynaldo. Sorry, Gary. Much respect for Aaron and his literary accomplishments, keeping it real and relentless. He does keep it relentless over the years. And then Ramsey Battle. Thank you for tuning in. Marissa said hi. Marissa from Cali. And also want to shout out to the great, the one and only Raquel Henderson for tuning in. Raquel's tuning in on.
Over here on IG, Sunshine Gypsy says, wow. And then she's asking, she says, awesome story. What advice would you offer for group writing? Maybe we'll get to that.
Yeah, we definitely take some questions.
Yeah, I never knew about Guy Johnson. So, you know, it's like we only know what we know, you know what I'm saying, in life. But for sure, Guy was important in my life. Not only was he important in my life, but I had suggested his book to other people. I later came to see the guy that invested in me while I was in prison. And he was in Jersey. Maybe he was on some kind of house arrest. He literally had just come home and now was reconnected with his tribe. But I went to his house and he invited me in. And on his wall was a mural of the four most important things in his life, you know? And what he did was, the person who created the mural, they actually did it on the wall. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. So the mural was like a 3D, because the book that I told him about, standing at the scratch line, was protruding from the wall. It was like it was
coming at you like this. Exactly.
And it was
like the car coming out the wall, get ready to hit you.
Yeah, and you know, he thought that was important to say, hey, do you notice anything? He pointed at the wall, and I'm like, I'm looking at it. I'm like, no. So basically, he's saying that I put him on to something important that changed his life.
Amen.
And it changed my life. And I'm telling you, if you want to give your son, your teenager, the man in your life, some courage.
Something for Father's Day. Something for Father's Day.
Something from some heart. Something that will not only will withstand the test of time, that may change his life in ways that you never thought.
Imagine.
Give him standing at the scratch line. Give him standing at the scratch line. That's a gift.
So let's talk about that for a second. Not so much standing at the scratch line, but let's talk about some of these dang on titles, my brother. The one thing I really loved about your titles is that, and I say it, even in the titles, there's a relentlessness to it. And one thing I enjoyed a lot is that you have these titles that you can't really ignore. Like these titles, these titles get in your brain, like, and it's like, Relentless did it again. And so can we talk about the titles? You know, because staying at the scratch line, because I'm a jazz person, and my wife and my shout out to my wife. I was just looking at my hand. I took my ring off. I usually always love wearing my ring because it shines. But my wife is a jazz person, and then my mom was a jazz person. And so, you know, just that word, standing at the scratch line, and hearing, in my head, I hear this music, almost like Devil in a Blue Dress. Almost like, you know, your titles, just your titles alone, are classics. And where did you get the inspiration for some of these titles that you have, that you've written about over and over again? So, and we shout out to Uganda. Someone just asked, how can they buy your book in Uganda? On LinkedIn.
Thank you. So part of writing is reading. I think we've nailed that when I talked about these other authors. Right. And part of getting your work out there is marketing. And what I did was I literally thought up and conjured titles that would be riveting and that would capture you. So just like song titles, they have one word pronouncements. These books had to have one word pronouncements that were undeniable. So the very first book I wrote was called Topless. And a lot of people don't know, I let it on earlier. My dad owned a very
famous
strip club in Mount Vernon that inevitably moved to the Bronx. And even I've met men all over the country that, you know, once I told them that my father was Gilmore, they brought back memories. You know, it's so crazy. But so long story short, that sort of Topless made a lot of sense, because not only did my father have a topless club, but you know, it was the storyline. So that was the very first book I wrote. That was that book that took a year to write. And I guess it was just me getting the kinks out of that sort of prison sort of thing going on, but also the kinks out of my writing, you know, like the kinks out, like working it out, trying to figure out how I'm going to navigate in this world. So I had to separate myself from the story. That was number one. That's how I came up with Relentless, because unlike Sister Soldier, who imported herself into the storyline, which is, I don't know if people understand how that's such a disconnect with your reader. It's a violation, as a matter of fact. No shade on Sister Soldier, but in terms of the craft,
but she made it work. And that's, to me, that's a skill set that y'all are great. There's all the connecting dots between you, Aquan, Nikki Turner, Wahida Clark, even Terry McMillan. The greats do ish that nobody else has done.
Right. So I was about to say she broke the rule, but that's okay. You know, like, you know, today people are breaking rules left and right. They're knocking down statues. They changed the bathrooms from men to co-ed. So, you know, she was one of the first movers in terms of sort of like of being just radical in terms of breaking the rule. So long story short, I wanted to stick with what I knew, what I had studied, and I separated myself out of the fiction, out of the storyline, by changing the name of the character or keeping the Gilmore name in the book, but also that helped me to come up with the Relentless Aaron name, which is my pen name, if everybody's not familiar. And the reason for Aaron is because I wanted every book to be a home run. So my psychology when I wrote was to write as if. I wrote as if, not only as if it was already a book, but that it was as if it was a knock out of the park home run. And so that's Hank Aaron, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Also, Aaron has 2 A's in it. And the second reason I grabbed that is because 2 A's puts an author at the top of most alphabetical lists. That's how they alphabetize us guys as authors. They go for our last name. So that was the reason for Relentless Aaron, and I trademarked it. And Relentless obviously speaks to, you know, my gumption, my mojo, my authority in the writing game. You know, I devised it before I did it. I devised it. Why? I devised it.
That's the first takeaway that in this conversation. What you hopefully our listeners, and I'm going to cut out this piece. That's the first takeaway. That's the first Aaron nugget or gem, is that you intended to create what you were doing.
I manifested it. And I manifested it. That is powerful, man.
It's powerful. You didn't just manifest it. You didn't just manifest it. You guaranteed it. You put the thought and the action behind it, because you said author A. It's not just
right. It couldn't just be Anderson,
but it's author A.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it had 2 A's. So
it's also when you put the book, you know, right. People exactly. They don't put you in Relentless Aaron. They put you Aaron.
Right. Here's the other thing. So I came up with that to put myself at oh, by the way, so when fiction readers go to the fiction aisles, they also know, based on the bookstore, oh, this is the fiction area. Oh, they're alphabetized. So essentially it's easy to find. No, also they put anthologies before the A's. So the way for me to get for me to double down on that was to do business with 50 Cent. So being connected to 50 Cent, this gets deep, bro. I don't think people get it. So,
and that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because it's going to be a classic. I mean, we're going to cut out to, like, honestly, that was another one. The second show. Why 50 Cent?
So connecting with 50 Cent not only gave me the brand recognition, but it also put me further at the front of the alphabet, because numbers come before letters. So when I went into Borders, when Borders mattered, I would see my books in on.
Wait, like, was that some shade? Was that some shade? I love it. When Borders mattered.
Oh yeah. Crazy.
So you say stuff. Relentless says stuff, y'all, that he doesn't even remember or realize he said. His entire being is just spewing out.
I'm about this life.
It's just, even when he says, "I'm going to the bathroom, I might see you later, or I might not." It's like, wait, what?
I might not. Meaning I'm gonna be there for a while, right? No, but
or might not.
Right. So Borders used to have my books on kiosks, and I guess it was an allegiance that they had with St. Martin's Press, the one of the first publishers.
You bring back all the names. You bring back all the names.
Yeah, and so the books were positioned in different parts of the store, and so again, they would have shelves of my books, because I had so many of these books. And then again, it would be, then it was the numbers and the anthologies before that. So yeah, it's a strange, but you got to learn your marketing. You have to know and I knew it early, and it wasn't because I thought I used to read Business 2.0 in prison. I used to read the Wall
Wow,
Street
you
Journal
bring
in
back all the
prison.
old classics. Business
I used to
2.0. Oh man, I
I
forgot
used
about
to read
Business
The
2.0.
Economist. I used
Did
to
you ever
read the
read
Wall Street
Cranes?
Journal. Huh?
Did you ever read
What's that?
Cranes? Cranes
Crane?
business.
No, 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 no. I've
No,
heard
not
of it. I
Cranes.
the
Yeah,
business,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
familiar with it, but I didn't get
I
it in
love
there.
Business 2.0. Business 2.0
But
was
here's
so
the other
great.
thing. The other thing is I used to go around to other prisoners and I used to ask them for their magazines when they're done with them.
You did
So I had
feedback. You
access
got a
to
feedback. You got feedback and said,
I,
"What are you
I know
reading?
I
What
got
are you
all kinds of
reading?"
magazines from
Yeah.
everybody, and basically I was hoarding information. So I used to get the Daily News, the Washington Post. I used to look into the marketing section of the New York Times. So I used to read all the New York Times coming out, the Wall Street Journal. And so that kept me alive, guys. That kept me involved and engaged in the stuff that was going on in the world. While I was writing my books, I was strategizing the marketing of my books, and my goal was that I would write more content. It wasn't going to just be one important book. I would write multiple content, so multiple streams of content. So therein you have all these books. So let me tell you something. From these 30 books, you have numerous characters in every book. To stay on track and on point with each character, to be so focused on it actually requires you to be isolated and to be out of this world. You can't be in front of the internet, in front of the TV. You just had to let your imagination sort of weave this menagerie, this tapestry, this this maze. Because here's the book in a nutshell: goal, motivation, conflict. I learned that, I think it was
Wait,
Deborah
you gotta repeat
Anderson.
that. You gotta repeat that. Just gotta say it slowly.
It's
Goal,
Goal GMC. And I think the author's name was Deborah Anderson, who
goal,
taught me that.
motivation, conflict.
Goal, motivation, conflict. And so the goal is Dorothy wants to get back home. She was swept away by the big storm and ended up in Oz, right? The motivation is she loves her family. She loves her Auntie M, right? The conflict is the witch and all of the things that the witch is doing in her life. The goal of Tony is to love Maria and stay connected to his tribe, which is the Jets. And the motivation is that he loves his gang, but he loves Maria. And the conflict is the Jets and the Sharks are fighting. If you attach GMC to most every renowned storyline, you will find a blockbuster, a winner, because our minds are connected in so many ways throughout our history. We have a framework of seeing, okay, we get it, all right, here's the tension. Here's the reason why this person wants to achieve this goal. Here's the goal. Here's the reason why this person wants to achieve this goal. And here's the conflict. Oh boy, we just watched Coming to America. And so,
Right.
the goal, motivation, conflict. The goal is obviously, from Eddie Murphy's perspective, the king is, he wants to get his son to keep his reign or keep the kingdom in the family, right? The motivation is like legacy, right? The legacy of everything that he's his family. The conflict is, the Wesley Snipes character and the things going on back in Queens or Brooklyn. So I'm just saying, like, my point is, I don't want to go too deep into that, but I will say that goal, motivation, conflict was where my head was at with every book. Like, every book had to have a goal, and every character had to have a goal. And by the way, here's the deep part. The deep part of writing is that while you have your stories, GMC, you also have individual storylines in the story that also this character has their goal, motivation, conflict. So does this character and this character, and everybody's life is different. And so you have to be able to concoct and devise and imagine these stories taking place before you're writing them on paper. And then by some, strange, it's like doing a recipe. You're taking the ingredients and you're mixing them to
So you're a
build.
book cook now. You're a book chef.
I'm cooking the books. And so, so many words. So basically I'm taking the ingredients and I'm mixing this meal that is supposed to be robust and tasty and satisfying and hopefully nutritious. And so this is the whole every book is that. Every book is that. And so it's now this is bringing me back to like when I'm really in the pocket and I'm writing and I'm thinking of my characters, and all this shit is going on around me. These prisoners have been taken away from their families, and there's some people that are being deported. There's some people that are in there for a long time. I was in there for only 7 years. There's people in there for 30 years, and there's a lot of people doing life, all kinds of stuff. So you're in these environments with all these men that are trying to figure life out. But in the meantime, I'm in a bubble, and I'm in the like Carly Simon says, you're a legend in your own mind, and so that was me. I was a legend in my own mind. I was my own hero. You feel me? And so I was doing that right in that bubble, that incubator. So prison for me was an incubator where not only I could figure out who I was, but I could also sort of work it out on paper and work it out through these characters, the things that I hate, the things that I love, the things that I embrace, the things I abhor. So I was able to do these in these various stories and various storylines. So yeah, Topless, Sugar Daddy, To Live and Die in Harlem, Push, Bum Rush, The Last Kingpin.
That's my favorite. That's one of my favorites. The Last Kingpin is one of my favorites. And
we could talk about that too. The book I did.
I want to get some questions. We have a lot of comments and questions also. But I'm just letting you know. No, you can go ahead. No, I want you to finish your thought, Relentless, about Last Kingpin and.
Yeah. This just is just a lot of work. Extramarital affairs.
And I feel like some of these, to me personally, I need a 2. So I need Extramarital Affairs 2. I need Kingpin 2. Did we lose Relentless? No. Come on. The internet. It's just we got too good, y'all. Relentless, come back. Yes. Someone from LinkedIn said, "Hey Martin and Relentless, Push was my favorite. Definitely. Oh my God. Push was a classic." And let me see if we can get Relentless back. Go ahead and remove him and go back to go back to this. Can we go to this? Okay, cool. So yeah, one of my favorites Relentless does is definitely Push. Okay, cool. Got you back. Yep. We got you back.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So you were saying
my phone to my any computer, and it just threw things left. So go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I was saying I need 2. In other words, I need some of those tiles. I need version 2. But just put it out there in your brain. Well, I want Push 2. I want Class Kingpin 2. I want Extramarital Affairs 2. And I think.
So let me tell you, Topless took a year to write. The Last Kingpin took 3 months to write. That was like my 3rd or 4th novel. And then
you want to roll. You're like this.
That's when you couldn't stop me. After I figured The Last Kingpin out. By the way, The Last Kingpin is like 3 acts. It's like a 3-act play. It's about a drug organization that stretches from the streets of Harlem to Bogota, Colombia. I mean, it goes through
it was
Miami.
Good. It was good.
It was thorough. But let me tell you where that story started. It really started with that little girl and that little boy in Bogota, Colombia, who escaped death squads when they came
Okay,
and
stop right there.
massacred their family.
You know who I felt was I'll say inspired by that story? What
Go ahead.
famous movie that had a little girl? She wasn't chased. She was chased by a drug dealer, but she came to America.
Colombiana.
Yes, I saw that. I was like, this reminds me of a Relentless book.
Close, but I want to say close. I'll go there because yes, not
Because
although
nobody
they
had done that,
definitely
Relentless. Nobody had used a child
okay.
like that in any other movie. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like,
I'm gonna go with that, but I'm gonna give them credit. First of all, I
creative
feel like
license. They have creative
yeah, I'm
license
gonna give
too.
them
Yeah.
that creative license. Um, I'm not gonna play the whole Terminator and Matrix bit.
no,
Listen, this is my thing,
no,
right? What's
I
for me
can't
is
join you
for
in that
me.
one.
What's for me is for me.
Right, right,
Okay,
absolutely.
and I
But I'm just gonna say,
my
I would say they were inspired by that.
my re,
You were the first one to do that. That I read a book about.
thank you. That story, if that film opens that way, just that early morning massacre, um, it still will be different than theirs because they took it to another, to another dimension, right? This is a
Yeah,
boy and a
absolutely.
girl who escaped the death squads and the massacre of their family, but who come back together later. But later, when they come back together, one of them is under investigation, and then because they came back together, the DEA assumes that they're both engaged in this money trafficking and drug and the whole thing. Anyway, long story short, that book probably, when they put me in the ground, that right there between Push and The Last Kingpin,
Yes.
uh honestly, some of the most thorough writing, some of the most thorough characters, memorable characters in fiction writing. Push Jackson, classic dude, stand-up dude, courageous dude, reminds me of King Tremaine, of course, in Standing at the Scratch Line. So I'll say King Tremaine inspired me. You know what I'm saying? But I'll also, The Last Kingpin would be like if New Jack City and Scarface were like one movie. That's
Woo,
it. You
woo.
know,
Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
it right there. And
All
so,
right.
and
I
all
gotta
the
get to these
levels.
questions.
Go
I
ahead.
gotta cut you off to get to these questions because we're running
Yep,
out of
yep.
time, and I want to make sure we have. So
Oh,
one of the
okay.
questions is I love. I'm gonna save the question about what he's working on right now to the end. But one of the other question was from Uganda. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Uganda was how can you access Relentless? So that would be going to Amazon. Is that the best place to get your books?
Yeah, Amazon, or in my link, you could always go to relentlessaaron.net, or you can go to, there's a lot of my other writing on there, or you could just Google Relentless Aaron. You'll see the books are everywhere. So my success isn't in the sale of books, although it would be great for folks to go to my link tree in my or my link in my IG, because there's The Last Kingpin is for sale there. You can get the digital copy right away. Also, you can buy Extramarital Affairs there, and that money goes directly to me. There's no middleman. And so
That's in
that
your
that
link
was
tree and
cool.
the Instagram. The link
Right
tree and
on my
Instagram.
Instagram.
And we got to
So
share that link tree on LinkedIn. Let me make sure I
yeah,
share
for
that.
sure. That would be great. But honestly, I'm so happy that I spent the time doing the blueprints, because the blueprints and the books are going to become films. And um, and I know this because shit, I not only did I sign a 3-picture deal with Bill Duke, but there have been other options on my books. They
Right.
fell to the wayside because of the writers' strike. But Bill Duke and I have maintained a relationship. Actually, he just finished producing or working on Black Lightning, and we met up here in Atlanta before COVID, and We actually became partners. So why is that big? Writers get to write a screenplay and they get to step in. Basically, you write
Yep.
this and we may produce it.
Bye.
We may
Bye bye.
not. We give you a little
Yeah.
bit of money. But Bill said to me, man, not only did he pay me, he put his money where his mouth was. I'm thousands of dollars. And but he said to me, I want to show you the game. I'm gonna because they could take your stuff and put it on a shelf and produce it when they want and do what they want with it. I want to show you the game, take you behind the scenes, like you're gonna be involved. And so that to me was liberating.
Huge. It was huge. Yeah,
it was liberating. And I didn't know him when he said that to me. He called me on the phone out of nowhere, man. And I had my goal and my dream was to connect with one of four people: John Singleton, Ice Cube, F. Gary Gray, or Bill Duke. And Bill Duke got he won. He won me over. Of course, he's won us over with his legacy and his work, but he won me over by being a first mover. First mover.
And a man of his word.
Yeah. A first mover state of mind for me is what wins, what's been winning for me. Just being a first mover. So I feel I'm a first mover in terms of like writing, not just a lot of books, but a lot of important books, a lot of sort of engaging books, a lot of books with that had gravity, and not just, fluff. You and I have seen the books where every other page is blank. You and I have seen the books where they double space all the words because they have little to say. You and I have seen the books or heard the songs that are very shallow. At the end of the day, and look, to each his own. I'm not mad at you if you wrote a book and you had every other page blank, or you wrote a book, or you whatever double space.
I'm mad as a reader, and I spent my money. Yeah, I'm mad. But I got what you say. I got what you're saying as an author or not. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you thought you were an author until you met me, until you read a Relentless book.
This is what I miss about books. I miss, and I'm while you were talking, I'm getting inspired and ideas, and so I was calling this a fireside chat, but it's really a literary giant series.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that something I haven't told anybody. You're the first person. It's the first time I mentioned this anywhere. I'm creating something called a Black Writers Hall of Fame because I believe that we need to have an organization where people remember who Elon Harris was. They remember who B.B. Campbell Moore is. They remember who L.A. Banks was. They remember Eric Jerome Dickey. But we also need to give our authors their flowers while they're here.
It's so crazy.
And I don't think these kids know that.
I knew L.A. Banks. I knew Eric Jerome Dickey. And let me tell you something. I didn't go looking for them. And here's the other part of writing, right? When you master your craft, everything imaginable comes your way to see your dream through to reality. You don't even have a choice. It happens by default. I was in prison and money came to me. I was at a book fair when they tried to do the Harlem Book Fair in Long Island. And I went out there and I'm sitting on a stage beside L.A. Banks. And she's just learning about me and I'm just learning about her. I'm in Atlanta, that the Bronner brothers flew me down here. And that's how I got down here to Atlanta. And I'm in a Starbucks living out of a van.
I remember that. I was following you. Where you were on MySpace
and bounce back.
Right. You were on MySpace talking.
I was doing MySpace. I was doing Facebook, all of that stuff.
Right.
But I was trying to bounce back, from divorce and all these other, and the book industry tanking, everything going to ebooks, the movie industry having
Amazon coming in and killing a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So I had been knocked down 3 times at the same time, not just by the book industry and the film industry, but also my wife. And at the time, just the divorce. And so with that said, the Bronner brothers called me at the right time. Oh, we want you to autograph your books at our hair show. So they flew me down and put me in a hotel. and I made $3,000 in 2 days. I was sold on Atlanta and the Bronner Brothers. You couldn't. I was an absolute fan at that point because I had been in all kinds of book functions. I sold books. I've gone down to New Orleans to sell books at Essence. I'm standing on the corner with 3 or 4 other people that are selling my books with me on Bourbon and Canal. We're selling our books on the corner. We're going into hotels, restaurants, the whole nine. We're killing the game out there in the books. I'm doing all these speaking engagements at libraries. I'm going up and down 79th Street in Chicago, Euclid Avenue in Ohio. I'm at 125th Street in Harlem. I've been all over.
You're doing Tyler Perry plays. Good, getting on either side of the door.
I got tables to the left and the right. I got all kinds of footage.
That was Relentless.
I'm getting all kinds of testimonials and videos from people that I've run into people. I'm in front of juniors in Brooklyn with my books, and these ladies come out. They're like, Relentless, I got your book right here in my purse. So like, like that type of thing is going on, and I'm feeling anointed, but I'm not feeding into the fame. Even though I had been on ABC World News and I've been on NPR and Ebony Magazine, I'm not feeding into it. I'm not falling into that psychology because you can get real comfortable in that space. And just being popular does not equal having the money. And having the money does not equal being popular. You have to do the work in both ways and means. And so that was where I was mentally in that space. So, it's just, man, it's been a blessing. I'm not mad about anything that's happened. Let
me get some more questions to you. One question from Gary was, how do we go about composing a novel in 2 weeks or less how do you go about composing a novel in 2 weeks or less when a lot of us aspiring artists have been struggling to finish novels inside of us for the past 5 years? And he added, out of our fear of rejection. So can we talk about for a minute specifically, because I know Relentless story, and can you talk about that meeting you had where you turned down an offer they were going to offer you, and you came back with, I want 100 million. So that was classic Relentless.
It's something that he said, which is powerful. I don't want to lose that. The only way that you possibly get into a space where you discount my work is if you never read it, or if you, because people pick up books for different reasons. I noticed in selling books all these years, they pick up because you have a great personality, because you're the same skin color as them. Very rarely do you get them in the book by the content, the strength of the content. But once the book gets out into the vehicles, the distribution, then they stand on their own merits. Then you find the book nooks and the intelligentsia, as it were, the black Twitterzens, that will inevitably say, oh, this is kind of good. Oh, and they'll tell their friend about it. And before you know it, that's where viral takes place, but you have to get it in their hands first. And so I used to do all kinds of creative things before I got the big deal. I'm going to tell you 2 of them that involves Kiora Simmons. Kiora, I say Kiora. That's not Kiora. Her name is Russell Simmons' wife. What's his Kim?
Right.
Kimora.
Yeah, Sister Simmons. Yeah.
And
Kimora. You saw on the. I think you saw on. Right.
Also, I'll tell you one that I plan on. I have a book coming out called "I Did It, You Can Too." It's gonna drop a lot of how I got in the New York Times, how I got in Ebony Magazine, how I got on NPR, how I got all these places.
How you showed up in the morning news every morning, the weather report. The Relentless is in the weather report. This book. Right. Okay, we're now going to, it's 40 degrees. And Relentless, are you okay? Yeah, I'm good. Get pushed. Like,
so,
how does he get in the weather on the streets of New York? Like, what? But go ahead, Relentless.
So I'm driving up 57th Street one day in my my little Yukon, and I see a crowd outside of BET Studios, and this was post Katrina. They were having a telethon, and I didn't know that was number one. I didn't know that was BET Studios, and number two, I didn't know they were doing a telethon. So I pulled over. I made a U-turn and pulled over, and I found out what was going on. I remember Steve Harvey was hosting it, and I caught him on a smoke break out there, but he didn't want to talk to nobody. He just like he made those eyes.
Yeah, no, Steve Harvey don't
he
play.
made those eyes like, dude,
breaks.
why are you even coming over near me? You know,
right.
I understand. So, but Russell Simmons pulls up with Kimura, and he's in a gold Range Rover, and he gets out because he's going to be on the telethon. And I know Russell. Russell and I did business when I was 19 years old. I'm like you. I could find out who the manager was on the back of the album, and I showed up at their offices. So this was before, the internet and all that stuff. And so I found Russell, and Russell, of course, managed Run DMC and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and a bunch of other rap groups. And so they were the least expensive groups I could afford back when I was 19 to have a concert. So I booked Run DMC, the Fat Boys, the Force MDs, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I had a big concert in Mount Vernon. So hence that became the beginning of actually Rockbox came out. Rockbox changed hip hop. It changed hip hop for Run DMC. They finally crossed over, with Aerosmith and then so that came out at the same time I had my concert in Mount Vernon. And man, I had, if you go to YouTube, anybody just type in Relentless Aaron and Mount Vernon and Run DMC, and you'll see my concert. And so long story short, that's when I started my business with Russell Simmons. And so he gets out, I say hi, but I see a whole lot of people flock over to the car to see Kimura. So, I'm talking about 24 people. So I went to my truck and I got a case of books. And I came back, and there was now 3 or 4 dozen people standing outside the truck. I started to give away my book. And people, not only did they have to take the book, but Martin, now they had something for her to autograph. So that stapled that book. Now here's another occasion. I'm in Texas.
That's the third takeaway. So this is also I'm gonna put on the screen message. Because you gave away 2 dozen. So how much profit?
I gave away a case of books.
You lost or you gained? 30
books.
Okay, so that was let's just estimate that was $8 of profit. Let's say that was $200 and
over $300 over. No, sorry, 30. It's over $500 profit because the books are like $15 each, so it's like 300
right, back
books.
in the day,
so 30 books. So it's over 300. Right. So anyway, long story short, I on another occasion, remember I told you I used to go to Essence. Well, one year Essence went to Texas because they had the Katrina bit, so they right. It was the worst thing ever, but I went down there, and they usually at Essence they have these final concerts at the end of it all.
Yeah.
And so I'm out there with my people, and I hired 20 girls to market my books in Texas. And so we would go into the malls and go into the beauty salons. But the problem with Texas was everything was spread out, whereas in New Orleans everything is like within a few square blocks. It's not far. You can walking distance. So everybody had to take taxis out there, and they didn't have Uber at the time. So what happened was I was outside of that dome, that big concert facility down there. And when they let the concert out, there was a line of people that was so long to get taxis, and they were my people. So of course I had my SUV. I pull up, and we unloaded cases and cases of books. And it was more important to me to have the book in these folks' hands than it was to get the money. And I says, folks, I feel really bad for what's going on out here. You have no way to get around You're waiting for taxis to come back around. Let me give you these books. And I went out and I gave them these books. And like some of these people waited out there for 2 hours for a ride. And so that was just some of the like the unique marketing ways and means. I've done so many. I'm going to list them in my book. I Did It, You Can Too. I have coming out. It's going to explain.
Right. So that's good. Let's get back to the answer to this guy's question, which was and shout out to Gary for hanging with us and watching this. His question was, you were able to create a novel in 2 weeks, and he said some of the people haven't been able to pull out the novel out of themselves in 5 to 10 years.
I was losing my thought on that. That's what happened.
That's okay, because I love the listen. That's why we're doing this. We're doing it. You said it in Clubhouse. You say, hey, Martin, we should have a conversation because I'm one of those rare individuals that has seen you from literally the start. In New York, and not when you got left out of got to Jersey, and I remember for me as a marketing person, I remember all the Relentless marketing. That was so good, and so I want to frame it by. You did have a novel in you, and you did pull it out of you in 2 weeks, but you also were in a very intensive place. You didn't have any distractions. You didn't have.
I have a choice.
Right, exactly. So I want to frame it by that, but then definitely share what you think with a bunch of distractions. What would you do?
State of mind, Martin, is so powerful, man. As I said, my best writing was in isolation. Like I was isolated, and just for me that works. Also, when you learn to ride a bike, it'll take time. You learn to drive a car, it'll take time. You learn to cook a meal.
Yep.
You learn anything for the first time. You have to work the kinks out. But here's what happened, Martin. One of those stories. I was in that first prison for the 6 months, and I was in the law library fighting for my life. I was like, yo, I can't do this 7 years. I got to give some of this time back. So I'm in the law library. I literally could have given a year or two back and been home sooner. But what I found, I stumbled upon Dr. Dennis Kimbrough's videotape, VHS tape. And in the tape, he changed my life. He said that if you master something or you become an apprentice or you practice something for 3 to 5 years, you could be the best in your neighborhood. If you study or master or become an apprentice in something for 5 to 7 years, you could be the best in your tri-state area. But if you study something for 7 to 9 years, you could be the best in the world. And Martin, I had 7 years. So for me, he was speaking to me. And so what I did was I decided not to fight my case anymore and to double down and focus on mastering my craft. So that meant I had to read books by other authors, which I explained earlier. I had to read about writing books. So there's the book called On Writing by Stephen King. There's a book called Spider Spin Me a Web by James Patterson. There's a book called Telling Lies for Fun and Profit, which I believe comes from Sheldon or one of those authors. You can look that up. Those books also changed my life. But also I had to read books that had gravity to them. So Guy Johnson's book, again, changed my life. So you have to be a reader. Writers are readers. Anything else is just like you just giving testimony and telling about your life. And how far is that going to go? How many books can you write about that? You might be able to stretch it for 2 or 3 books by creating some stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're in this game to write book after book after book, and if you're going to be consistent and you're going to win an audience over and they're going to want more content from you, you have to stay writing. You have to stay in the game. You have to stay practiced. You have to stay reading. You have to stay fine-tuned. Sports psychology tells you that if you keep doing something so much, it just becomes natural. When Michael Jordan is up in the air and his tongue is hanging out, it's over. It's over. And so that's sports psychology I brought to writing the book. I brought the psychology of writing. For me was like, I am the best in the world at this. So I needed the ultimate focus, and I needed to think years ahead as if. So there's a book called As a Man Thinketh, So Is He.
Woo!
And we're
Another one.
and that book also changed my life. It speaks to manifestation. And you know, you all know it, The Secret and all these other books, but let me tell you something. That is the thinnest book around, and it will change your life if you just apply and execute. You apply and execute, and you can hit pay dirt. You can hit pay dirt. It's like a no-brainer. It's you just need to basically, you have to have the blueprint though. And for me, the blueprint was other books by other authors, and also the Dr. Kimbrough's blueprint, and also manifestation. Very, very important stuff. So to that brother's question about writing a book in 2 weeks, remember, it took a year to write the first one, then it took 3 months, then I got it down to 2 weeks. I've literally written a book in a day. So I'm telling you that you have to stay on that bicycle, that you stay on that bicycle of life. You stay on that treadmill of life. You know, how many people do we know that just can cook their asses off? How many people do we know can get on? My man, Mike Phillips, who, by the way, with money that he earned from my Westchester talent competition, he bought his first saxophone. So I'm not just gonna slide that up in there. I'm anointed in very many ways, not just by geographics, but also I meet the right people. I'm connected. I'm looked over. I'm covered. God has got his hand on my shoulder every step of the way. It's just her hand. So it's like,
but you believe that too, though. It's not just that I believe it,
and I walk by faith. I walk in those shoes. I've wavered here and there, Martin. But you know what? I'm going to tell you this. Even getting arrested was important. Even getting the denial, that little note from that producer, was important. Even, do you know that in that prison, there's two sides. There's an east and west. There's a upper and lower. There's east and west. So I was on the east side. Then there's an upper and lower side of the compound. You can't go to the other side. You have to stay on this side. You can't go to the west side. You have to be on the east. There's no way for you to meet and fraternize with other prisoners. It's like, so, and then on the upper side of the compound, there's 3 dorms. You can't go to the other dorms. And not only that, I'm in a dorm where there's 2 floors, and there's card rooms in each of those of each side on each floor. So there's 4 card rooms. I'm in the card room with the biggest rappers present, and he approached me and he said to me, like, you're the Michael Jordan. You're the gifted one. I'm going to give you any money you need to make this work. Like, I can't explain it any other way but to tell you that I'm anointed. I'm not just gifted, but something about my energy is a magnet to the right people. And also it fends off the wrong people.
So just staying in that space right this second, what would you say to someone who doesn't feel that they're anointed and that they're a magnet? And I'm going to give you back what I heard you just say. I heard you just say that, but I heard you also say gold. What's the M?
Goal, motivation, conflict. But that. Right. So wait. That's the design of the novel. But let's not. Let's. But what I want to say is that you have to be focused first to even get to the point where you're even mastering something. You have to be. You have to find the focus and the discipline.
You also you're dropping gems and jewels during this conversation. Those gems and jewels, to me, showed you the craft of what you're doing. So it's not just that you are anointed and you're blessed, but you understand the craft. And even as a man thinking, which is free, everyone will put a link up and show everybody where to go buy, download it for free.
Yeah.
Even in understanding as a man think of and as a woman think of, there's a woman book also. Those books are free, but they require you to actually want to do better. And
I don't
so
want to
to
read it.
read, right? Because it's like you can follow Relentless example and you can believe, but if you don't want to make yourself better as a person, make yourself better as a writer, and understand the business of publishing, you won't. You'll produce a novel in 2 weeks, but then you won't get it marketed, or you'll accept some crappy deal. I'm just going to say the
Or
name.
somebody will
You may
read
not,
halfway through it and won't finish the book. You have to walk the
right,
walk. You can't pussyfoot through this. You can't half step, and there's no hacks to this. There's literally no hacks to writing the book. You have to go word for word, character for character. You have to stick to the plot. There's no way to devise a winner unless
there's no way to microwave this.
Devising winners. You've been like Dr. Dre. He's got the science. He's got the code. It's his code. He's created that. He can't lose anything that he's done. He can't lose. And so creating content is important. Owning the content, and you own the content the minute you manifest it or you create it or you imagine it in your mind, but you have to write it down. So to that brother who's asking, number one, you have to be disciplined enough to even want this. Do you want it bad enough that you want to breathe? You know what I mean? Do you want it bad enough that
dropping that Eric Thomas? Dropping that Eric Thomas on him.
Is it necessary? Is it necessary for you to write a book? You know what I mean? We know it's possible, but is it necessary? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's some things for people is a should. Some things for people, it's a can. Like, I can do it or I should do it. For me, it was a must.
That's an extra. That's a
bottle of apple juice.
So just to reconfigure a little bit what Relentless is saying, and I'm gonna drop my little gems in there also. Shout out to Raquel. Raquel, I need you to have you on this series. If you're still watching, you know I'm calling you as soon as we get off and be like, Raquel, I need you in the chair. Raquel, I need you in the chair. I need you in the chair over there. But seriously, the process of writing requires you to write. And you got to write. Now, are you saying you stop writing because you're in fear of rejection? That's another issue. But the process of writing, write, and write more. And after you finish, you're finished, it's all out of you. Then let's have a conversation about developmental editing. Let's have a conversation about goal, motivate, and what's the C word?
Conflict.
Conflict.
Goal, motivation, conflict.
Right. Goal, motivation, and conflict. That's now talking about the form. But do the exercise. I don't care if you do 25 jumping jacks and they're like flop you over. Do the 25 jumping jacks consistently for 2 months, and then come to me and say, "Hey, Martin, how do I get arms like this? Or how do I get arms like that?" That's another conversation. But do the actual work. So if you're in a place where you're like, "Hey, Martin, I'm trying to get this book done, and it's just I'm keep coming up the walls." I love that Gary was honest and he was authentic, and he said at the end, fear of rejection. Fear for me is, and I think Relentless would agree with this, false evidence appearing real. Yes, rejection happens. Yes, a person, and I've known Karen Canonis Miller. She has over 100 rejection letters. She went on to sell 28,000 books out of her car because the book was so good. The TV show Harlem Godfather is based on her book. When she and Bumpy Johnson's widow found her out and said, "Can you write this story before I die?" So the concept of rejection, one person's rejection or that rejection does not reject you or your novel or your work. That's just that moment saying to that specific energy, we don't want you here. Well, not that we don't want you, because, and then we never got to this one. Real quick, I want you to tell that story of being in the office and those folks saying to you, Relentless, we want to give you a book deal. And Relentless said, unless it's this amount of money, I'm not interested. But then they came back with another offer. Did Relentless still reject that? Or did he listen? Let's ask him.
So yeah, I done about 300 events around the country, and one of the most important, every event was important, whether it's a speaking before challenge kids or in a library or small readers group or book club. Shout out to all of you, especially the book clubs. But
And the librarians are watching right now. We got a bunch of librarians who just joined the LinkedIn chat. So they said, hey, from the Black Librarians Caucus.
one of the library speaking engagements I did, I brought in 3 other authors with me. I'm a person that I like to roll. I like to help other authors. And so we used to visit libraries around New York and do these speaking engagements. And one of the librarians, man, she dropped a testimonial. It's on YouTube also when you type in librarian and Relentless Aaron as a search. But she said, she's a 20-year veteran. And she said one of the kids had dropped a book in front of her, and she said, "Hey, you dropped your book." And the kid says, "No, that's Relentless Aaron. Miss Kathy, you don't know about Relentless Aaron?" And she says, "No." And so Miss Kathy started reading my books, and now she's like, "Oh my God, such a fan!" And it's so amazing that librarians, professors have applauded my work, and I'm so blessed to walk in these shoes. I don't even really think about it. Like, this is the first interview I've done in depth in a long time, and I appreciate the opportunity and also the foresight to recognize that this is not just some dude that wrote a book. And honestly, anybody
Absolutely not.
who
You're a
walked my
giant, bro.
walk, anybody who walked my walk, who's done what I've done, you deserve all the praise. Anything less is neglect.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you and your platform, and and just the foresight. You were the bookstore that gave me that showed me love, whereas the other bookstore, the so-called bookstore that's no longer around, or that mattered for a moment, they were the bookstore that by default of their location got on and basically said, like, who are you? So I'm just saying, like, you gave me an opportunity, and I appreciate that. I was nobody. I was never nobody. We're never nobody. We're always important. But I mean, like, I didn't have the press. I didn't have the notoriety. I didn't make all the money. No, I didn't have the film deals. I didn't do the 50 Cent deal. Anyway, so let me get to your point. But you saw something about me. You saw and let me in the door
Well, you
and let
came
my
to
book.
us. The thing is, real recognize real. The other
Yeah.
authors, I could not book one of the popular authors except maybe Nikki Turner, Quan, you, Wahida. And that's kind of interesting. We talk about street fiction and we talk about fiction. We definitely had trying to think of the sister's name, not Brenda Jackson, but it's right to my tongue. She morphed to historical fiction. She was a New York Times bestseller, or his one. Went to Akashi Books, but she came. So some of the old school, BB Campbell Moore came, L.A. Banks came, but none of the hot new ones, and definitely not Damon John when he came out with his book. No celebrity author would come up to 156 in Amsterdam. Zero, none. They looked down on us, but you came and you knocked on the
Well,
door.
no, Martin, I was up and down those streets. I was up and down Broadway. I spent a lot of time in Harlem, and let me tell you, getting to New York City, that was the unpopular way to get to New York City. You went over a bridge and then you went up Broadway versus going down the
Yeah,
FDR or the
yeah.
West Side Highway. So that's where the guts of it all is on Broadway. And I sold my books on 72nd Street. I sold my books on 110th. I sold my books on 125th. I went down to 47th. I went down to 42nd. I went down to 40. I hit all in 23rd. I was all through New York, and not just me. I set up tables in the Bronx and like I said, Brooklyn and Manhattan. And then I would go pick up at the end of the day from these tables, pick up the books, picks up, because I had this big SUV Suburban. Anyway, so the book deal you were telling me. So one of the events that I did,
book deal.
Book Expo America. And Book Expo America, it let me on to all the big publishers, got to see like who this cat is. And so my booth was just a big deal. I had a big old 56-inch screen monitor behind me, and it had all of the graphics and all of my book titles. And I was prepared. I went in there prepared. I had a team with me that were helping me sell the books, and we were all dressed in red with the Relentless gear on. And I had all of my titles were on book stands and I had, you know, handouts. Well, one of the publishers called me, and they were like, they did their research, obviously. And not only that, let me say, Earl Cox was a big name in the book game. He found me. I want to say he's one of the guys that found me and got and pushed my book into certain hands. And so he was probably, I don't know if he thought he could get be an agent, or he was an agent of course.
Can we talk about that for a second? Can we talk about, so you brought, I haven't mentioned the name, and I shout out to his wife. I'm a fan of his wife. Love what Lynette Califani Cox does.
Yes.
But let's just talk about Earl.
So Earl and I met. We were.
Let me just say this real quick. Let me just say this real quick. Let you know, Earl's the reason why I started marketing books to authors on MySpace. The reason why is I saw Earl's prices, and I was like, "What?" Like, his prices were astronomical, and I was meeting authors who just got out of prison, or they couldn't afford $2,500 or $3,000. So I was like, "How can I democratize?" It was Earl or nothing, because Earl was the top. And so I said I wanted to be Earl, but I wanted to be Earl on a monthly retainer, which is like, I think I was charging $25 when I hooked up with Tia. And Tia was like, "You tried $25?" I said, "But on MySpace. I'm just marketing authors on MySpace. Let Earl have the rest of the world. I'll take MySpace." And Earl wasn't on MySpace at that point, because MySpace wasn't. Nobody saw that. It was before I tried to get Whitney Williams people to be on MySpace. They laughed at me. They're like, the internet stuff." Young Black and Single, YBF, was killing it from her dorm room, and I tried to get the digital. So so just letting you know, like, I hear what you're saying about Earl, and I want to talk about your relationship with Earl. But for me, Earl was the guy like way up here, and I was like, "There's nobody coming that's way down here."
Quickly, how that happened. I'm selling books on the streets, and I run into this woman, and she introduces me to Troy Johnson. Troy Johnson runs the African American book
Troy.
club.
Still around, still doing it.
And Troy basically took me in, and he did his interview with me, and he sat down with me and did a story, and he learned about me, and then he read the book Push, and he's been a strong advocate behind me. Calls me the hardest working author. And then
that sound like Troy.
Troy and I go eat one day, and eating with Lynette and Earl. They weren't married, and I think they might have just met at that point. I'm not sure. And also Brenda L. Thomas. We're all sitting down eating
Brenda Thomas
in Harlem. And L.A. Banks.
What year was this?
This was this was back in my early days. I had, I was grinding out there. I would say I had a buzz, but I don't know why these folks grabbed me, because anybody else could be sitting at their table, but I was sitting at the table with these great people. And of course, we know how great Lynette is. For y'all to know, Lynette,
oh my gosh,
zero debt, and
killing it on CNBC, killing it on Wall Street Journal.
Brenda L. Thomas with threesome and foursome and was it foreplay or foursome? Anyway, so Brenda L. Thomas is huge, friends to the day, and L.A. Banks and I really got to bond. We got to bond at that dinner just amongst us. And little did I know I was amongst the elite. And
You were.
and LA said to me, I just signed the deal for Scarface. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, Manny Barron, her agent at the time. By the way, LA and Manny are both passed away. And Manny Barron quarterbacked the deal for her to write the prequel for Scarface. And LA says, man, I don't write this stuff. I need you. She's like, I'm like, wow. Wow. Like, you got me. Look.
You need me? I got them.
I'm like, no, but LA had written a number of books herself. And so, but this was my content, having written books like The Last
Space. Your space, yeah.
It's my space, my pocket. And so I says, you got me. Anything you need, I'm with it. And so anyway, long story short, that happened. And so Earl was a very important part of getting me into bookstores and getting me heard. Because at the end of the day, it's who you know, it's connecting the dots. It's really like trying to figure out.
Let's just talk about that deal, though. You're in the room.
Okay.
They offer you this deal.
So I got the phone call from St. Martin's Press, one of the editors. I forgot her name. I forgot her name. But anyway, she calls and she says, hey, we'd like to talk to you about doing business. And so I show up at the Flatiron Building downtown. The president of the company comes to the lobby to meet me and ushers me up in the elevator. And I'm telling you that there's 800 authors there was over 800 authors at this publishing company. They don't come down to the lobby to meet you, especially no nigga. I'm sorry.
Right. straight up.
So we go up in the elevator, and I guess, I had already started to get some press on myself. The New York Times had already written a piece about me.
I mean, you were on the morning weather show.
I was in New York a number of times. I was on Michael Baisden show. I didn't know my own speed, bro. I was out there like this.
You were just being relentless going.
I didn't care about how much fame or what platform. I just knew I had to march this into existence. And so I go up into that office.
Until you got there. You weren't gonna stop going until you.
I didn't know what there was. I didn't know what there was. I didn't know what I was doing. That's number one. I just knew I was following my heart, and it was putting me in the right place. And they say always follow your heart. So I'm just doing what I do. But
very relentless.
Thanks. And then so I go up and I'm in front of this boardroom, couches and stuff, and people are in there probably checking me out. I don't know what they're thinking, but they're checking me out. I come in and I have 10 books under my arms, and my son is with me. My little son, he's probably like 8 or 9 at the time, or 10 or thereabouts. Anyway, we're in the room, and I do my salutations, and they basically they say we do business with you. What are you looking for? And I honestly didn't know what to say. I just told them what I've done is I've written 30 novels, and I see movies, and I see TV shows, and I see children's books as a result, repurposing my content for kids' books. I saw all of this content. And so basically I'm on the block, guys. Like, I'm the slave on the auction block at this point. And
so you think.
Right. And so I told him, I says, well, this is $100 million. I'm the $100 million man, so to speak. And that's basically, I said $100 million. I remember. And so they were like, I don't know what they were thinking. I can't think for them. But they said to me, well, I'll tell you what they said. They says, well, we can't do that. We don't do media. We just do books. And I says, well, that's basically, what I'm here with. This is what I'm looking for. So anyway, I left. I didn't leave cocky. I wasn't even cocky when I said that. That was just, you asked me, I told you.
Right.
So I
why ask me something you don't want to know?
I autographed my books and I left them, and they called me back and they says, well, we can't do that $100 million deal, but would you write a new book for us? And I I says, what does that look like? And they says, well, you get $10,000 on signing, you get $10,000 on delivery, and you get $10,000 on publication. And that's $30,000. And I'm like, I make $6,000 from a Tyler Perry, from Tyler Perry coming to town. You know what I mean? That type of thing. That's every time Tyler came to town, that's the kind of money I made. Anytime I went to New Orleans, that's the type of money I made. I would make these thousands of dollars. So 30,000, I could get that myself. I don't need you. So I didn't say that though, but I said, how about 4 books? And then we did the math. I says that, that was $40,000 on signing, $40,000 on delivery, and $40,000 on publication. That's $120,000. And to date, I had never made that kind of money, that kind of deal. So
not only you, but I don't know at that point had any other author who was released from prison, who was rejected by a music producer, who also was on the streets every day,
who never got a rejection letter or sent out a query.
Right.
So
I don't think anybody else at that point.
And I didn't have an agent.
Right. Everything you're supposed to have, So you're in there by yourself, really. Yeah. Genuinely asking questions, not being afraid to ask a question. Well, what does it look like? And then, you know what? One book, I got 4 books. You guys game for 4? And they say to you, what?
I probably could have said 10 because they have the money, but they had to justify giving it to somebody. I probably should have pushed my muscle and said 10, but 4 was reasonable. It made sense. It also put me in the 6-figure, I say the 6-figure nigga zone, right? So honestly, if you're going to auction yourself, get the money you need, right? So anyway, long story short, I made that deal. I went and signed those contracts. I got a check for $40,000. I got a call a few days later from an agent called the Literary Agency. They're very big. They had 50 New York Times best-selling authors at that time. They were a big deal. They called me and they're like, yo, we want to do business with you. And they said, we can get you more money. We heard you had 10 books you did yourself. We could try to get a distribution deal. If we can get you some more money, would you deal with us? I'm like, sure. So they went and created a bidding war. And they got me another $150,000 on top of the $120 that I did myself.
So we had $270 now.
It's $270. Then I got contacted from Simon & Schuster that wanted me to write a book for 50 Cent in G Unit. That was another $25,000 on top of points for everything.
$295.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. And then Bill Duke came across with another $5,000 and bought options on like more money.
We had 3.
Yo, crazy. I think back and I'm like, yo, I really had some man.
So here's the takeaway for me, and this is going to deserve 4 going forward. And I will say this is our final takeaway. Do not be afraid to ask for what you are worth. You didn't say, most people say, you asked for 100 million? There was Tyler Perry hadn't even made his 100 million. How are you? He asked. And what that told to me, correct me if I'm wrong, what that told them was this man, this black man with this black face isn't afraid to ask for what he's worth. He's not, you weren't impressed with, hi, sir, let me meet you at the front door. Come on up to the penthouse suite. Here's some water, this Evian, this Perrier, whatever you want. Aaron pushed aside all that and said, hey,
he meant to say Relentless, folks.
I'm here for this. Stack, 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 stack. And they said, we don't have that. We can't even give you that. So, and Relentless said, here's 2, 3, 4, 5 books. I'm signing with you guys. What's your name, Johnson? Okay, because I know how you are. I remember how you were. You would pull a book out of somewhere. There was always a book somewhere, and he was ready. He had a pen. I don't know if he had the pen right here. He had a pen somewhere, and he was signed, and it was never about the moment. It was about like, hey, Relentless, I don't have any money. Can I buy it? I really like the book. No problem. Hey, and when you do this, when sometimes say, follow me here, or he would, no, it was don't follow, but he would ask for something for that book, or he would ask a question, and he would hear you, and then he would give you the book. Sometimes it was for free. Sometimes it was, I'm going to be over here tomorrow. Can you bring 5 friends? Whatever it was. So in that moment, when they said, no, Negro, you can't have 100 million, Relentless didn't stop. He still was relentless. And then they called him back and said, hey, we can't do what you asked, here, 100 million, we can give you 10,000. That's like, that's the black thing. That's the black tax. And so Relentless said, okay, well, if you can do 10, I don't need 10. Give me 4. 40 million, 40,000? Oh, okay, we can do that. And then, so opportunity knocked. And they said, hey, Relentless, you need representation. And I'll tell you why you need representation. Because you need representation because you're not getting enough money, Negro. There's more money in them hills. We can get you more money. Again, this is a conversation around money because Relentless started the conversation 100 million. And throughout this conversation, the literary agent didn't say that was wrong. The publishing house didn't say that was wrong. What they said was, we can't get you that, but we can get you this. And Relentless didn't say, become the typical, I'll just say it, Negro and arms folded, well, y'all reparations and y'all should have, you owe me this. And so therefore he said, well, I'm glad you offered that. I like to have more, please. And thank you. And they got him more. And by asking, guess what happened to the universe? The universe said, oh, well, you want that? So we'll give you this too. What about that? And then what about this? So he started with 0, went to 100 million, came back down to 10, went up to 40, 270, 295, and his just a little icing on top, a cherry. Here's 5,000. Right. And so in a matter of of 2 weeks,
I'm making. I was doing on my own. I was selling books in the streets. On my own, I was getting money by consultations. People that wanted consultations with regard to their books. I was getting money regardless. I didn't have T-shirts that I was selling, or I didn't do all these other things that people did wrapped around a book. You know what I'm saying? To make other money based on that title, which I get it. It's fine, but that wasn't me. I want to release these stories, put these stories out here, and let these eyeballs get these words. Like they say, catch these, you gonna catch these fists, you gonna catch these words, right? So I just like really, I think it's about manifestation. That's what I wrote down, manifestation. If you were listening from the beginning, and I talked about the psychology and the mindset of where I wanted to be, how everything else fell into place. The money came to me when I was in prison. The readers flocked to me when I was in the streets. The money came to me when I was in the streets. The readers flocked to me. The press flocked to me. Certain allegiances and relationships, that core group that I was sitting with Lynette Calfani and Earl Cox and Brenda L. Thomas and L.A. Banks, all of the stages that I've been on with top authors from around the world in urban lit and beyond, the Walter Mosleys and the Michael Eric Dysons. And I've been there, folks. The Alice Walkers, I've been there. I've been in those circles where I have a voice. And if anything comes out of this, I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to shine, because there's so many millions of us, and there's only 24 hours in a day, and every platform only has a certain amount of time for you. So for ABC World News to give me 5-6 minutes for when today, like they you know what I mean, they rarely gonna give you time. How do you get a page?
They came outside. They came outside to your van.
Yeah,
Understand, y'all? It wasn't just they brought him in the studio. They filmed him. It's like they gave him another billboard. We talk about billboards today. Relentless Aaron had a billboard across national news.
Yeah.
At prime time, that showed his van, showed his table, showed the corner he was on. Location.
And they did that in the Daily News and the New York Times. The New York Times, even though it's like growing into a dinosaur, it's still like known as the granddaddy of newspapers. And
back then it wasn't a dinosaur. Back then it wasn't a dinosaur. It was a beast.
No, back then it
wasn't.
Sure.
Let's be clear.
I'm saying now it's becoming a dinosaur.
Right.
But however, it's a iconic piece of media, and it's important media, and they still see it as important. They still mention it whenever they say New York Times bestseller, all of that. And I'm telling you, for them to give me a front page article, have you seen this?
Yeah.
You have seen it?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I know it's in the media. Have you seen the newspaper?
Oh, physical newspaper. No, I've seen this, the screenshot.
Okay. So for them to give me a front page article in this newspaper that had the entire top part of it was a story about me and a photo, and then below the leaf was and then open the section.
Explain what the leaf is. Explain what the leaf is.
So when a newspaper when they put it on the newsstand, it folds, and so you only see what's on the front. So, and this was a Sunday paper, so they have sections. I was on the front of the arts and leisure section, and then I was below the fold. So the story was that big. But then when you open the paper, they had another look. Look.
So the point, my takeaway with the New York Times and also ABC is that when Relentless was given the opportunity, when the opportunity knocked, Relentless opened the door, and that was it. And I think for all the marketing and tagging and sharing and reposting, for a Black man to be able to come out of prison, write, sell his writing, and then for mainstream white media to say, we need primetime news, national news magazine, news magazine on television to interview you at your location on the streets selling books. And then for the New York Times, which was arguably, and still is to some degree, arguably one of the top 3 newspapers in the world, not just country, to give him his shine and time, that is completely unheard of. And as Relentless comes back and we see the newspaper, which I know he has 1,000 copies. See, I told you he has.
I'm not playing with you folks. We're not playing games. This is real. This the newspaper. This the newspaper I was in. I want you to see this. I'm not playing with you. I'm not out here with no receipts. You're in the virtual world. This is the real world. This is real. This is where they
wait. Hear that paper rustle again. Do the paper rustle again.
It's the real thing. I'm really in this. And when you go back to page 6, it's not
snap! You're on page 6.
No. I'm sorry. Page 10. It's not. Okay. This isn't me robbing somebody or getting locked up. This is me really in the Daily News.
Okay, let's get to the New York Times.
This is the arts and leisure section of that paper that I ran out on that Sunday morning, and this is the story. The picture of me.
Selling
I'm sorry.
books.
Selling books. They got me. They got the I don't know if you can read that. Now I'm gonna open the leaf.
Boom. Da, ba, ba,
Street
ba,
lit
ba, ba.
with publishing credit.
I
Now this
love
is
it.
like
I love it.
this is it. But wait a minute. You open the newspaper, right? And
And then what happened?
this isn't a column. You open the newspaper and you find the rest of the story.
So I was saying to them that what all the sharing and reposting and tagging and marketing hacks to get media today to find you, for you to have accomplished what you accomplished when it came to being a black man and being in arguably one of the top 3 newspapers in the world, not just this country. At that time, New York Times dominated the world. Sunday Times, that was it. And that newspaper was not cheap.
So what they did is they did a continuation of the story. And I'm simply saying, like, this isn't new for me. I got to Atlanta. Remember I told you the Broners brought me down here? I'm hanging out in Starbucks and they do this article about me this is Christmas, folks. This is Christmas. The 25th. Give me that. Here you go.
He's asking for it. He's asking.
Where is it?
Now,
Okay.
now I got to do something special for that. Wait. I got to do something special for that.
Here it is. December 25th. You see that, Martin? Martin, you so crazy. You see that, December 25th?
Yes.
Writer makes home at Starbucks. And then the Journal News, they decided they wanted to put me on the cover. This is the cover of the newspaper. And then when you get into the paper, they actually do a full-length story where they got the band. That's the full-length story, and then the continuation of the story on the back. I'm saying, like, this is real, like, this is epic. The evolution of a man who turned his negative lemon-filled experiences into positive lemonade. At the end of the day, people are inspired by this shit. It's created other authors, other publishing companies, eventually movies, and all these other ideas that I have. But my kids will have something to be really proud of. My companions in the field, you know, the other authors, can be inspired about what's possible. This is not fluff. This is somebody that I could have died in prison. I could have died even in the grind. I've seen my life on the edge many times throughout these years, and I'm telling you, like, there's something anointed about what I've been doing. And so at the end of the day, it's all I'm left with is memories to inspire people, these books, these stories, all the different characters that people attach to. Hopefully it changes people's lives. Here's one really quick one is I'm on Times Square with my books one night. I got this book with me, The Last Kingpin. This is the old copy of The Last Kingpin.
Oh man, bring back memories. Yeah.
And I'm on Times Square holding the book up late at night, and they just let out like The Lion King or something, and people are passing me by. They're not buying the book. They ain't feeling it. You know, it's like late night, Friday, Saturday night, Times Square. This white woman walks past me and she says, "Oh, hey, good book," right? And
I know what
she
you're
keeps
gonna
it pushing. And I say, "Oh, thank you." And she looks back at me like she gives me the gas face, like, "Who the fuck are you?" You know, like she didn't know I wrote the book. Yeah, it's really she didn't look at the back cover with me in the straitjacket or what. So I don't know, man. I'm just like I'm looking forward to what's next.
We're at the 2 hour mark.
Okay.
I want to get this last nugget in. the final one,
Okay.
the final jab, the killer, lay down the law. What would you tell your 12-year-old self? What advice, if you ran to yourself when you were 12 years old?
I would say be consistent, um, and walk the walk of mastery, so that, and pick a field that no one can duplicate. Nobody can duplicate a book, and if they do, you'll be found out. So, like, if you stitch words together, one sentence or a hashtag or anything like that, if you've taken somebody's work, somebody gonna find you out. Thank God for technology. And so I say, master your craft, and don't stop, in that vein, but know in your mind, and you can't just simply say, hey, I'm gonna be this. You've got to walk the walk. You got to be that. You have to walk in those shoes and actually be that. So as a man thinketh, so is he. Those things come to mind. Lawrence Fishburne said it's not just merely knowing the walk, it's walking the walk. And so those two things, if there's a takeaway for you to take, those differentiate me from the next person. When someone's an entrepreneur or says they're an entrepreneur and they come in my space, somebody said to me, says, damn, coming into your space makes me realize I got a long way to go. I'm not really an entrepreneur. Or someone comes into my space and says, damn, being around you is like being in a seminar. it's I get all these comments, but at the end of the day, it's because I master my craft. And I think master the craft of writing, I don't think you can do any better than that, because everything is a blueprint, even for a pencil or a chair or a car or a house or a skyscraper. It requires a blueprint, and that requires some writing, a proposal or an idea to manifest from your mind and turn it into something that matters. Taking it from mind and turning it into matter requires a blueprint. And I'm simply saying, you have to be all in. Don't half step, pussyfoot, or tiptoe into your greatness, because this required me to be all in all the time. Like, there was that was my only default. That was my only default. Should I tell folks real quick about Dad, Martin?
Yeah.
My father was an entrepreneur. He was one of the biggest entrepreneurs I know. He had a 5 stores, delicatessens in Mount Vernon. He had a liquor store. He had a couple of laundromats. He had some rental income property, and he also had a bar. And he downsized all of that to eventually just have the bar, because the bar was the most successful. And he did all of that with one leg. See, Dad had his leg severed below the knee.
Wow.
When he was playing baseball at age 17. So can you imagine that this man not only got a prosthesis, but he went on and he had all of these successful businesses. He was just kind of doing his thing, doing what he knew, being resourceful, and he made 6 kids. So I'm saying, like, he did so much. So what could you possibly do with your life? What excuses are you making not to achieve the most that you could possibly do? They say in Think and Grow Rich, I think it was like, in my mind, I own the most marvelous, miraculous, inconceivably powerful force the world has ever known. That is me. That is me. I put that on my wall when I was a teenager, and I walked that into existence. I'm 56 years old now. I know that I'm here on purpose. I know that there's a reason for me being here, and it's not over yet.
Absolutely. It ain't over. It ain't over. We just getting started. Second, I can't wait for your second book, or a second act of being now a mentor, a literary giant. You're part of Mount Olympus. I don't know if you're Zeus or who, but you're one of the gods. So I appreciate the God gracing a humble servant with his time.
You're so crazy.
Thank you, Relentless. This has been great,
You know,
brother.
it's so crazy. Like I was on, I was on D Nice's live stream the other day,
Yeah, that's what I was
and
telling you. I'm gonna tell you. I saw your butt.
did you see me live or did you see it after the
Yeah, I
fact?
saw the recorded. I saw the recorded. Yeah.
Oh, so it's so crazy because he's like, Violator Management, which was run by Chris Lighty. They brought me in. I was the only author. So what
Wow.
that did was,
So that's
thanks to
before Cash Money and Cash Money
yeah,
Books. I forgot
yeah.
that. So you again
So
trailblazed that.
yeah, because I'm around all these hip hoppers, LL Cool J, Missy Elliott, Mona Scott was his Chris Lighty's partner at the time. 50 Cent, Busta Rhymes. I'm around all these guys on a daily basis. Like before, I'm going in the office and I see 50 Cent, and then I'm in 50 Cent's office, which is a few blocks away. And I'm in
Boom, boom,
these
boom,
spaces.
boom.
I'm in these spaces.
Yeah, yeah.
These voices. These are voices. You know, you put a beat to them, there's still a voice with an idea,
Right.
and they're taking their
Right.
ideas and they're manifesting them.
Right.
So they're trying to figure out, like, who's this guy? Like, he writes these books, okay, but you know what I mean? It's like I had to figure
What is
it
he
out.
doing? What is he really like? Can writing can it be just like this? That he just writes? Like I write lyrics and he writes books? Like,
but here we are today, and they're actually taking songs and they're making stories out of them. They're reverse engineering the book. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what LA Banks did. She reverse engineered the Soul Food
God,
series.
LA Banks, yeah.
They took the Soul Food series and wrote books so that they can further, sort of manifest.
And then she trailblazed the vampirism. She trailblazed, for Black folks and blurs and nerds and all that, geeks and weirdos.
So, thank you so much. Thank you. So I was just saying, the D Nice is like, I don't think that he's even, because he's so much in another space now, I don't even think he realized, what was before him. Oh, I was saying that D Nice was also in the Violator camp. You understand? And so we saw each other in the office, or I think Chris brother had a wedding anniversary, and we were there together, and just we're in that circle. And I'm just saying, like, he doesn't realize the value of me like you did. And I appreciate you, brother, because you obviously have done your research. You look past the smoke and mirrors of life. You get surgical with it. And coincidentally, we've met and interacted earlier in my career. So it's so crazy just to see people that get it.
Do you remember? And I'm gonna try to get one. I don't know how, but I'm gonna try to get everybody on one Zoom call. But do you remember that year that we did the Black Pack party with Troy and Linda Duggins and Omarosa? Yeah. Omarosa on a boat. That was hilarious. That was the most interesting and eclectic group of people to have at a dinner table. Like that was a real interesting mix. We've been here.
I look forward to getting back to the Black Pack. I look forward to getting back to New York.
But it's not going to be Relentless. There's no more Book Expo America. They shut it down. Like, I mean, they said we're not doing it anymore.
However, let me tell you this. There's still Troy Johnson. Troy Johnson is the Black Pack. And and let me tell you something. When I go back and I am able to, here's my forecast for the future. Somebody asked what's next.
Yes. And they said mention your golf course. They said mention your golf course too.
Oh, thank you. I have a miniature golf course here at the Relentless House. I've actually taken my book game to another level. I always saw a retreat where authors can come and entrepreneurs can come and they can get jewels from me, almost like a church, but business, so I can inspire them. I have books here. I have audio. I have digital folders that I could share with folks. I expect that this will be that. It's already been that. Omar Tyree's been here. Other authors have been here. Other important people have been here. So the Relentless House is that incubator that I can manifest with people. I can teach people how to get there. And so that's what I've done. And I also run a Turo business from here, and I run a food business from here. And I also run the bed and breakfast from here. So I don't know if you saw it, but there was a guy saying thank you, and he's checking out. He stayed last night. I get $39 from him, 49 sometimes. So I get money on hotels.com where you see the Relentless house if you Google the Relentless house. So those are the things that I'm doing now. I just built a 9-hole miniature golf course outside, so you can come through. It's free. Play golf with your significant other. Still social distancing. It's outdoors. You ain't got to worry about all of that. Just to get out, because everybody's inside. Like, you have nowhere to go. There's no, you can't go to the park. They shut the parks down. They shut this. Come on through the Relentless house. Just set an appointment. I'll let
Play
you
some
go
golf.
out there.
Come on.
Have some miniature golf. I didn't want to lose my.
Thank you, Sherelle, for that. We were talking about the future, and I was saying, Troy, and I was saying they shut down Book Expo America shut down. You were like, it's still Troy.
Out there. For all you authors and business folks out there, let me do that. First of all, let me say hi to Sunshine. You've commented so much. Thank you so much. Miratical Wealth. Thank you so much for your comments. All these people, they've been on the live stream on Instagram. So inspiring. Somebody says Iris, thank you so much. God bless all of you. Desiree, thank you so much. Beauties by Kel, Sunshine, and I didn't even look on my Facebook. All you folks on Instagram, I appreciate you. Queen Deneen, thank you so much. I think that's Deneen Milner. Real D Robbins, thank you so much. Young in the God, thank you. Prosper within Sam, thank you so much. Faison, International, J9, Zulu, hello, thank you. Peace, Relentless, somebody. Quinn Seek, maybe that's Karen Quinola. I'm not sure. But thank you so much, all of you guys for the love. I got a long way to go. This is what I'm doing. I wish I had access to these resources when I was starting my book game, and maybe even earlier before I went away, because I would not have gone away. But if I didn't go away, I wouldn't have the books. And if I didn't have the books, I wouldn't have the world, the life I'm in now. So I'm grateful for all my experiences, good and bad. But it's about to get to the money. I'm now helping people get grants. There's $25,000 grants for everybody who has a business, period. If you have an LLC, I can get you 25 grand. It's that simple. You got to have a bank account attached to it. You have to have an EIN. You have to be listed with the state. You have to have those, what they call controls in place. A business phone number that's listed with 411 directory assistance, and also list yourself with Dun & Bradstreet. You do all of that, I can help you get business credit, but also I can get you a $25,000 grant, and you can get that every year. But bigger than that, there's also $50,000 grants, $100,000 grants, and $250,000 grants. There's levels to all of that. My sister, I got her into the $100,000 grant. These are grants that are paid out over the course of a year. Folks, we need the money to put our dreams into reality. And it makes it that much easier. You don't have to run around the streets like I did to sell books, put your life on the line. I seen somebody's face get cut open being out on those streets. It was rough. It's real out there in Harlem. It's not a game. So I'm telling you, it's like fights over vending spaces and all kinds of nonsense. And at the end of the day, we'd all be happier if we had the resources and to see our dreams to the reality. So I want to see people get these grants, whether you have a business in your home or as long as you have an LLC. And by the way, it takes 3 hours to get your LLC up and running. So basically, I'm telling you, all could get access to 25 grand. You all could get it. The people I'm working with, they got $5 million for folks so far with these grants. So I'm telling you, get this. And if you're a female and you're Black, you're considered a double minority. You can get 100 grand. I'm telling you, the money is here. There's corporations. Martin even knows there was recently, you mentioned there's a corporation that was giving money away recently. But something you mentioned on the LinkedIn group.
Yes, there's iFundWomen.com/Visa, which is doing $10,000 grants.
They are so good at writing grants. They just know how to get you the money, and they're successful 100%, and they guarantee they're going to get you the grant. So I'm saying that to say, like, get this money to help you push your dream forward and manifest it. Get some consultation so you know what the hell you're doing. And at the end of the day, get this money so you can see your books get the money first, then do the books. Then from the books come the films. It's that simple. That's the code. And then create an ecosystem of businesses around your brand. Like I have the food business and the transportation business and the housing business. Now I have an ecosystem. I get to keep the money in the circle. Like you know what I mean? I get to do all of that in the circle. So you're constantly feeding yourself. You're not even paying taxes because you're writing things off. You don't have to pay taxes on credit. If you buy, I pay my employees with credit.
Exactly.
I pay for the food with credit. I pay for the cars with credit. Everything's with credit. Therefore, there's no taxes in there. I'm telling you, there's a way to do this that's legal and that keeps you growing.
Do you think you're gonna write about that?
I gotta write about it. It's got people have got to know that this is the blueprint. This is it. This is reparations. Excellent. It's right here. Like for me to have, I remember I went to prison for bank fraud. Shit, I'm over the crime, but I got a stack of credit cards now. It's so liberating to know that, hey, your axle broke on the car, just fix it. The clutch broke on the Mini Cooper, just fix it. You need gas, just fill it up. I mean, you got to be making revenue streams. Don't get me wrong, you got to be making revenue streams.
Right.
You need to get the business credit. The business credit will afford you hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars in resources and capital to buy into your investments, to kind of level the playing field in terms of resources, give you the resources to make it happen in your life. I'm not going to preach no more because everybody ain't going to get this smart.
And we're done. We're done. We're done. And so they can follow you. They can follow you where, Relentless?
I'm everywhere.
Stop giving out gems.
I'm everywhere, Relentless Aaron. I'm heavy on Instagram now. I'm doing a live stream now on Instagram. I'm heavy on Facebook. I'm gonna get heavier on LinkedIn. But I'm so heavy on Clubhouse. A lot of people have been inspired on Clubhouse. They've been hearing my voice, and I appreciate it so much. I'm here on purpose. That's all I could say. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have lived this long, to be able to. I'm 56, folks. Some people don't even last this long. And by the grace of God, I might exist as long as my dad. My dad died at 91 last month. My mom is like 84. So I got the genes. Not only that, the DNA of entrepreneurship. And can I pass this on other than to my kids? Quite possibly. Because there's some things that you can't get away from. Like you can't get away from this grant money. Like you have to get the grant money. It's like no way you can get out of that. So thank you so much, Martin. I appreciate you.
Thank you,
God
my brother.
bless your family, your wife, all the people that mess with you. You're very crisp. I love hearing you on the Clubhouse. You know what you're talking about. You do your research. Man, I wish I had 10 of you around me. We would get the money. We would get the bags. Oh, that last thing. So what I'm going to do is you don't even have to go get the grants. Just let me get the money. I'm going to help you get your films done from your books. We're going to come back. We're going to circle back and pick up the pieces, Martin, on all the. So we're going to talk again, but we're going to pick up the pieces. I'm going to grab up 10, 100 authors. We're going to get them financed and get them funded. Why not? All right.
And we'll do a series. We'll have our own web series about that. And that'll be, even at the web series level, we can do pay-per-view. So the whole thing is still, even if it's $2.99 or $1.99 to watch the videos, that this content and information should be everywhere and anywhere.
It's big, folks. It's going to be a big film produced by Bill Duke. This is part 1. This is part 2. And you want to get my 34th novel. This is called Extramarital Affairs. I bought all of these from the publisher, so you can get these from the autograph from there, $15 plus shipping.
And that's at relentless.net?
Relentlessaaron.net or on my IG. You can get them right in my link on my IG. But I appreciate your support. I have a podcast called Superpreneur, everywhere where you see podcasts. God is good. And by the grace of God, I'll be able to help many more people and I'll live a fulfilled life. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, bro.
Thank you, brother.
Peace.